really quick, I want to talk about the pros and cons of using uh, a physical abacus versus a digital abacus. And there are reasons to use both, and I would recommend having both if you can have access to a physical abacus as well as a digital one. All right, so let's get into it.
So first of all, we got the real abacus here, and I want to talk about something nice, and it is the muscle memory, the tactile sensation of manipulating the abacus. All right? When you are doing calculations, you sort of get used to these movements, and these movements equal pictures in your brain. So once you eventually try to do mental math without a physical or a digital abacus and just picture these calculations in your mind, it will be much easier to have that tactile sensation because it'll reinforce the visual pictures and your familiarity with the abacus. Okay, so doing all these little things and feeling the sensation of the abacus in your fingers just will help that knowledge and familiarity become much more concrete. Okay, also this is really gratifying to do that. Okay. Anyway, let's talk about a pro of using digital. Now, something that's really nice about using a digital abacus on your phone is that because it's not a physical object, this doesn't happen where stuff is moving around all the time. So if you're on the go, on the bus, on a train, in a car, walking around, you can't really use this, okay? It's gonna be hard. So it's nice to have something on a screen that is always going to be in the correct orientation no matter what angle you're holding your phone at, okay? So that's something that's kind of nice about using a digital abacus. Another pro of using a physical abacus is they have more rows, or at least from what I've seen, the digital abacuses usually only have about that many, maybe, so it's really nice to have more rows when you start doing other things like multiplication. You can set your two numbers that you're multiplying together. Like let's say you're doing a 2-digit number, right? 71, and you're multiplying that by 56, right? So you set your two numbers over here, and then you can like do whatever to get the answer over here. Okay, so it's nice to be able to do that all on one abacus. All right, cool. Let's talk about a pro of the digital. Now, like we've seen on the other video, it's more work to test yourself if you're not using a digital abacus app that doesn't give you test problems for you, okay? So if I had to write out like a list of problems, like addition problems or subtraction problems, that's it's gonna take longer for me to do that. I gotta go get paper, I gotta find a pencil, write it all out, and or like have a friend do it for me, and then but on the app, it just, boom, it gives you questions, and you can set how hard or easy the questions are, which is nice. Okay. The thing about the apps are you can't set them very specifically, at least not the ones that you can't set the parameters very specifically, the ones that I talked about in the previous video. So like if I wanted to do only subtraction, Simple Soda doesn't let you go into a quiz where you only have subtraction problems. And you can't set the difficulty very, specifically. So the mental abacus, you have a little bit more control in some ways, but not in others. All right. Cool. Now another pro of the physical abacus is that it doesn't drain your phone battery. Okay, since it's a physical object, you don't have to waste battery life on doing math stuff. Okay, you can practice it, while you're at home or whatever, and yeah, you don't need to use any of your battery life, which is kind of nice. But something that's cool about a digital abacus, especially some apps, is that it lets you change color, which is kind of cool. Maybe you're helping you, maybe changing the color will help you visualize things because the contrast between the counted beads and the other beads that are not being used on the abacus will really help you distinctly form that mental picture that you need to form strong mental calculations later on. So that's kind of nice. Okay, and one last thing is This is sort of not really a pro or con of either. Um, it's just something that I wish was available easily, was the ability to change the abacus layout. Okay, and let me explain what I mean by that. So on the classic abacus, uh, you have 4 beads on the bottom, and on the top you have 1. Okay, but I wish that there was some way to easily change the amount of beads on both. Okay, so that you could count in other bases. I actually made an abacus that you can add another extra bead to on the bottom. Okay, that will let you count in dozenal. Let me get that out real quick. All right, here's my homemade abacus, and you can see that it's got the 1 bead up top, but on the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it's got 5 beads, so I can count in dozenal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then after that, 1 dozen. Okay, dozen 2, dozen 3, dozen 4. Yeah, dozen 3, dozen 4, dozen 5, dozen 6. What number is that? In base 10, it's 18. Dozen 7, dozen 8, dozen 9, dozen 10, dozen 11, and then 2 dozen. So that's the number 24 in base 10, which I think is cool to be able to do that. I don't know. Maybe that will, if you could constantly switch the abacus, it would eventually help you be more familiar with your multiplication tables or something, you know? If you know what 1 dozen is, 2 dozen, 3, and so on. I don't know, just a thought. And if I want to change it to regular, I can just pull the string over the bottom beads so that just 4 beads are separated on each of these bottom rows. Now, I haven't found any app that easily allows you to change the layout of the abacus, but I really, really wish somebody would make that. Anyway, I think that's all I got to say about the pros and cons of, physical versus digital for now. But again, I would recommend using both if you can. All right, see you in the next video.